Want to know how to soothe a wicked cough using herbs? Each of us are only here because our ancestors were healed by herbs. I'm Sharon with Wise Woman Works, and I'm here to share with you what I know about these wonderful, generous herbs and how to use them. I make a cough tea and not a syrup. Why not a syrup? I'll talk about that later. It's really interesting. So the cough syrup that I've been making for years is equal parts horehound, mullein, thyme, and lemongrass. Other herbs that you can add are peppermint or chamomile, both of which help with nausea. I had RSV in September for the whole month, and it was tough. I heavily use the 3 compounds that I'm talking about. The cough tea was invaluable. The cough was really intense. The other one I used is winter tincture, and I'll put a link for the video for that. And there I'll teach you how to make a powerful healing herbal compound. So this recipe can be made using fresh herbs or dried. The horehound and the mullein grow wild. The lemongrass and the thyme I do grow in the garden. But my rule of thumb is generally to use about equal parts of the herbs. Now don't let not being able to have one of these herbs or the other stop you from making this cough tea. Use what you have, use what you can buy, and know that the herbs are generous and all of them are healing. You don't have to grow these herbs. All of them are available online. I will link my favorite stores, the reputable suppliers for herbs, in the comments below. I'll also have a link for a Google Doc with a lot more information about my process, and so check those out. Each one of these herbs is healing, so don't sweat the details. Work with what you have.
White horehound grows wild almost everywhere in the world. It's in the mint family, so imagine that. Used since the 1st century BC for respiratory ailments, it's the first pick herb for soothing coughs. The first year, mullein grows as a rosette, the next year as a tall stalk with yellow flowers, and then it dies. Used medicinally, it soothes the lungs and makes cough more productive. It also grows almost everywhere. English thyme grows upright, comes back year after year, and is cleansing for the lungs. Harvesting here in my garden in late fall.
I make a big batch because I freeze it, and I'll talk about how to freeze it in just a bit. So these are my herb gloves. The first part is that the lemongrass and the horehound need to be simmered to release their healing compounds. This is just picked wild. I'm going to crush. So that's a part. I'm not worried about the stems. They've got medicine in them too. And then I'll take the lemongrass. I've already chopped this. It grows like a long stem of grass. I'll cover this in water and simmer it for 15 minutes. My pioneer grandmother said that horehound needed to be simmered for 15 minutes to release the medicine, so that's what I'm going to do. But it is simmering in there. You can just hear it. I'll set the timer for 15 minutes. Okay, here we are at 15 minutes. I'm going to take this off the heat. Here's the tea, about half done. I'm going to crush up the rest of the other 2 ingredients, which is mullein. The reason I crush at use is leaving the cells whole keeps the healing compounds in. There's no reason for you to damage the leaves until you're ready to use them. Now, time is messy, but what I'm doing, I'll grab a handful, and then I'll squeeze and let the leaves fall off. I'm not worried about the twigs at all. I've cleaned these already to make sure there's nothing in the dried thyme that I don't want going in there. Because the leaves are so tiny, they don't take up anywhere near the bulk that the other herbs do. Oh, wish you could smell this. It smells so good. The resin of the thyme, the lemon, the horehound. Mullein doesn't have much taste or smell, but it's very healing. Just want to cover the herbs so that everybody is at the party releasing their medicinal compounds. I'm not going to really let this simmer. I just want to bring it almost up to a simmer. My experience is that if what you're doing is just pouring hot water over medicinal herbs and letting them steep, you just don't release as much of the medicinal compounds as actually putting the cold water on them and bringing it up to a simmer. And I'm watching it, and I'm seeing the first tendrils of steam. So I'm just about ready to turn the heat off and let it steep. Oh, I just saw a couple of bubbles, and that's my cue. I'm going to just turn off the heat, and then we'll leave it to steep. Because of the mullein has all the little fuzz on it, it can be a little bit difficult to get hydrated. If you're in a hurry, you can let it steep for 30 minutes. I prefer to let it sit overnight to really extract all the healing from the herbs that they can give. Pop the lid on, and we'll just leave this to steep and release its healing compounds. It's the next morning. My tea has steeped all night, and I'm going to dip out as much of the tea as I can. I've got a little strainer there to catch extraneous things. You can see it really looks different. It's the green color is leached out. It's just looks tired. So yeah, getting all the good stuff. From here, that's not very much of the tea. The dry herbs, especially the mullein, because of the fuzz, are very thirsty. So we're going to grab and squeeze. We'll see how much tea is stuck in those leaves. My next step will be taking this tea and breaking it down into smaller pint or even quart size jars and freezing it. This is enough for several people and for coughs this winter. And I'm really excited about having a chance to work with herbs to heal. I suggest about a quarter of a cup per dose, and you can add extra water to that, hot water, to make it easier tea to drink, or you can just shoot it back, just bang it back. And I drank that about every 4 hours. Pay attention to your symptoms to know how much of the tea you should be taking. Your body will tell you what it needs if you let it. The extra tea you can absolutely freeze for the future. Go ahead and put it in a jar, leave 2 inches of headspace because as the water freezes, it expands, and you don't want the jar to break. Future you needs it, go ahead and pull it out of the freezer. You can leave it on the counter to thaw. You can put it in a pan with some warm water. Some people use the microwave, but because of old-timey suspicions, I don't use the microwave with healing herbal compounds. I promised I would talk to you about why I create a cough tea and not a cough syrup. A lot of recent studies have shown that sugar impacts your immune system, and that is definitely not something that you want a healing compound to do. I dug into the studies to see what the levels were and how that all worked. The studies mostly agree that it's 18 teaspoons of sugar to cause an impact to your immune system. And that is about what you find in half a can of Coke. As a Coke drinker, that gave me pause. So this tea has a pretty fierce taste, and you may need a little bit of honey to be able to drink it. When I was sick with RSV, I just drank it straight. The horehound creates a very bitter tea. So try it if you can without any honey. If you can't, just try and keep it under 18 teaspoons.